Welcome to Lesson 9. The title of this lesson is Building a Basic HTML Site. So in this lesson I'm going to walk you through the process step by step of building a basic HTML website. So let's start with the fundamental elements of every HTML document, the doc type. So I'm going to add an HTML5 doc type, which looks like that. That's all you need to write. Between the greater and less than brackets, you have an exclamation point, doc type, space, HTML. That's it. HTML5 doc type. Now we'll add the HTML tag, within which all tags exist. And I will close it. What I'm going to do a little differently here, though, since I'm going to be building an actual web page, the HTML tag, I'm going to add an attribute, lang equals en. Now, why is that important? This is called setting the language of the page. Now, when you set the language of the page, in this case, the two-character designator or value of en means English. When you set the language of the page, you ensure that the content of the page will be read in the correct language and accent for screen readers. So next we'll add the head tag and its closing tag. Within the head tag, we'll add the required title tag. The first page we're going to create is going to show an image, so we'll add the closing title tag and the word image. Now we're going to add our metadata tags. So I'll go through these quickly once again. They are in a previous lesson, but we'll go ahead and go through them once again real quick. They're in lesson 2. So we'll add the first meta tag, charset equals UTF-8. and close that tag. Second meta tag we're going to put in, the name of it is description, and the content, remember whenever you have a name attribute in a meta tag, you have to have a content attribute as well. We'll close that. The next one will be keywords. Since I have a name attribute, I have to have a content attribute for my meta tag. So it's going to be image, and it's just a test page anyway. The next one is going to be the meta, the name is going to be author. Not with an E, and with the quotes at the beginning. Please do not mistake my lack of typing skill for lack of knowledge of the topic. And meta tags being self-closing, I can just add that greater than bracket and be done with each one. Meta name equals viewport, with the content of this one being width, there we go. So we have our head is set up. We have HTML language set to English. We have our head area with our title tag and the word image, which is the subject of the page. We've set our character set to UTF-8, which is what you should be using. We have the our meta data set, our description, keywords, author, and viewport set to my image, comma, test, your name here, width, device width, and initial scale 1. So we've got our heading area set up. The benefit of this is you're going to be able to reuse all of this except for the text in the title tag. You're going to be able to reuse all of this again for the different pages, video, form, and table that you're going to be going through, because you're going to be making 4 pages in this site. You'll change the description and the keywords and the title tag. Other than that, those are the only things you'll be changing in the head of the HTML document for each of your 4 subsequent pages. So now let's create our body area. Got our opening and closing body tags. First tag we should put in there. Let's put in our navigation. So we'll create our unordered list, and we're going to put a list item in for each of our 4 navigation elements. So we're not going to be using any style sheets to style these navigation elements. We're just going to make sure that they are structured properly, they are accessible, and that they are functional. So now we're going to add anchor tags to each one of them. First one's going to be to the image page. And go back and copy this so I don't have to type it each time. And then just change this on each one. So for the second one, I'm going to make it the video page. form and table. So what I'm doing here is I am creating a navigation menu out of bullet list items. So that means because I'm making them a list, these are all items that are associated with each other or have similarity based on the fact that they are semantically structured together within this one unordered list. So that gives them meaning together. They are a group. They are a list of things. They're a list of links to various things on this website we're going to be creating. So right now we're writing the code, since we have image in our title tag, we're writing the code for the image.html page. So let's go down farther in the body area. Within the body tag, notice we keep the closing body tag beneath where we're typing, the opening body tag above. That way we make the content visible. Directly following the unordered list, let's add a heading level 1 tag and a paragraph tag. So in my particular case, I'm going to use a page with an image of a mountain. So notice when I added text content to the h1 tag, the text appeared below. Okay, so now we have a snarky comment there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an image of a mountain to which I can reference. So let's go to a place that will allow you to use their images without any copyright infringement concerns, and that is unsplash.com. Highly recommend you check it out. A lot of really good images on here, and they're donated by the photographers. They're free to use, and there are no license requirements. So I'm going to look for mountain. Press enter. Remember, I'm looking for a mountain to put in the page. It's my image page. I want something nice. Well, here's a nice one. I've used this actually. Let's go ahead and use this one anyway. I used this one in a previous lesson. Let's go ahead and use this. So now that I have the image, I'm going to right click on the image and open the image in a new tab. Hopefully that gives me the URL of the image directly. So it does. I got images. Here's our image, and they've got some size attributes here at the end, width and quality. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that URL. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to add my image tag with the source attribute equals the URL of the image, and I'm going to close it. But that's not correct. It's not a valid HTML, nor is it accessible. So I'm going to add an alternative text element, or attribute, excuse me, an alternative text attribute. The value of my alternative text is photograph of a mountain. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. It's got a width of 1355 here. I'm going to make it a width of 300. Notice that the image gets smaller when I do that. Now this is something that's actually specified within the parameter of the URL for Unsplash. You could actually set the width parameter directly like that. And that would also accomplish the same thing that we've just accomplished with this URL parameter. So now we have this image of a mountain with the heading and everything else. So now what I want to do in order to turn this into a file, because CodePen doesn't turn it into a file for me, I'm going to copy all of this code. I'm going to go to Notepad++. I'm going to create a new document, and I'm going to paste in all my code. So there we go. I'm going to save it as image.html. But first, I'm going to create a new directory. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to create a new directory. And in this case, I'm going to call it test-site. The lesson has you calling it website. I'm going to enter that directory. So here I am in the directory. I'm going to name this image.html, and I'm going to save it. When I save it, Notepad++ will then automatically color code the text form. I'm going to zoom in on it so it's easier to see. So now what I'm going to do, that the easiest thing to do now is I'm going to do a file and a save as. and I'm going to give it the names of my other 4 pages. Video.html, file, save as, form.html, file, save as, table.html. Now I haven't changed the other content on the other pages, such as the title tag, the description, the keywords, or the actual content as far as the heading and the paragraph that describes what's on the page, or the actual content itself. I'm still just making copies of the image page. But this gives me the ability now to go back in, and I can open all 3 of these. So I can open video, table, image, and form. Just click open. So now they're all open. Let me close these other ones. So I got table, form, image, and video. So if I go to table, I'm going to change the title to table. Go to content. Well, I could even just make it easier for myself. My table. Table and test. And then instead of an image, since I'm on a table page, I'm going to write table code. I forgot to add my closing table tag, which you should always do that first. Remember, we're adding, when we create our first table row and close it, then instead of TD cells, which indicate table cells, the first row is going to be table headers in a standard table. Let's go ahead and copy that so I don't have to type it again. Email. Okay. I don't want to really have to type that again either, so just go ahead and copy that. All I have to do now is change that to a D. This would be a D. So TD is a standard table cell. TH is a table header. And we'll change the contents. Again, this is all test stuff, so it doesn't really matter if it's correct as far as accurate contact information for a person. This is all sample data, so it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and save the table page. Well, so now we have a table page created, and we have an image page created. So let's go ahead and visit our website folder. Okay, there we go. So here are the 4 pages that we created. I'm going to go ahead and open the image page by right-clicking it and clicking open. That's going to open the page that I had viewed here. Let me zoom in on it. And I have my navigation menu. So remember, I completed the table page. Let's go ahead and click on table. There's our table here. And we can go back to the image page, and we have navigation that's actually working. Now the form and video page, we didn't actually correct the content on those to make them into a form and a video quite yet, but we have the beginnings here of a website. So let's go back to Notepad++. Let's go to our form page, form.html. We'll change this to form. My form. I'm not going to do any major modifications here, but I just want to make sure that this stuff is in there. So contact form. Alright, so now we're going to add a form. So every form must have an action attribute. We're not actually going to be using any script. I'm just going to throw one in there just for the purpose of having something visible to see. So we're going to create an input field. Input type is text. ID equals, it's going to be a name field. And the name of the actual field will be your name. Okay. And we're going to create a label. Put the label prior to. So label tags have a closing tag. Input tags are self-closing. So you want the for attribute of the label tag to match the ID attribute of the input tag. So now that I know the next input type I'm going to use is going to be email. So I want to make sure that the ID matches the for attribute for label. Okay, and then I want input type equals submit value equals, and then we'll capitalize this one. Actually, let's make it a little more instructive. All right, so now we have a form. So we have our form with its action of the script that's processing the data that the form is submitting. We have our label with a for attribute of name. We have an input type of text with an ID of name to match the label for attribute of name. That way the label and the input field are associated with each other, which improves usability and accessibility. We've done the same thing for our second input type of text. We have an ID of email and a label for email with a named email here. So these two are associated. These two are associated for usability and accessibility. The input type submit is recognized by all browsers as a button. It's also recognized as a process that then looks for the action the form is taking and the script it needs to run to process the form data. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's go back to our browser and take a look at our website. So let's click on form now. Oh, there we go. And one thing you want to notice, see how these two, this form field has a label of name, this form field has a label of email as far as a visible label. The visible label is the code here, it shows here. This is the visible part, this text that exists between the tags. Just as the text between the H1 tag appear on the field, on the page, and the text between the P tags appears on the page, the text between the label tags also appears on the page. So we have this visible text here. So if I click on the actual label of the field, notice how the field, even though I'm not, you would think clicking in the field would do it, but clicking on the actual label of the field, if it's associated appropriately with a for attribute that matches the ID attribute of the input field, you can actually click on this text and it will activate the input field. Let me show you how that works. Click on name, it activates the name field. Click on email, it activates the email field. Very cool. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that happen. Click on name, click on email. Very nice. So now we have our table, our form, and our image. Lastly, let's go ahead and grab our video. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and grab the URL from the video that I did on the video tag, and I'm going to pause the video to grab that and be right back. Alright, so I got the URL for the video, so let's go to the video page. We have our image pages set up, we have our form pages set up, and we have our table pages set up. So let's finish our video page and our whole website will be done. So we're going to add video to the title tag. It's going to be my video. Keywords are going to include. So the reason I'm changing these various things, you want to make sure you always change the content of your meta description to match your page. You want to make sure you change the content of your meta keywords. Your name and your viewport are going to stay the same. Your character set's going to stay the same. Your title tag needs to change, and then you need to make sure to change the content within your body tag. So when you click on a body tag here, you also want to make sure that you change, like for example, the heading, that's the purpose of the page, the main heading, and the content. So it's just a paragraph and the actual code that displays your content you're wanting to display, which is in this case a video. So your video tag just repeating. Let's go ahead and set just a standard width. 640 by 480. We're going to add controls. We're going to add our source tag with an SRC attribute. I'm going to paste in the MP4 video URL of the video I created and uploaded to my own personal hosting package. We're going to include the type attribute. And we're going to close it. The source tag is a self-closing tag. The next thing we're going to do is, this is something I've already created. We're going to insert our track attribute with the default parameter. And the source is almost the same as the video URL, just with a VTT extension. VTT stands for Virtual Text Track. Virtual Text Tracks work in all mobile devices, all modern browsers. And we're going to go ahead and close that, and then close our video tag. So when you are posting a video online and you are doing so with the intent to make that video accessible and usable to people with cognitive and physical impairments that are using assistive technology, you want to be very cognizant of the fact that your video may not be able to be heard. Your video may not be able to be seen. And so you want to make sure that the text that you make available to these technologies that are going to be accessing your video is easily readable and usable by all browser types, as many as possible. The Virtual Text Track format, VTT, allows you to do that. And as I showed in Lesson 7, when you go to webvtt.org, you can take a subrip text file, an SRT caption file that you get from a vendor or from Camtasia. If you export your captions that you type into Camtasia videos that you produce, it exports them as SRT files. You can paste your SRT file content, the text of it, directly into the box on webvtt.org and click convert, and it will create and display a box of webvtt text directly below that. You can then copy that text out of that lower box, paste it into a text editor such as Notepad++, save it as a whatever file name that you want, .vtt, and then reference it here in your track tag in your video tag where you display your video. That includes all the timestamps and everything necessary to display the text for caption. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. We're going to come back to our web page. So now we have image, we have a form, we have a table, and now we have a video. Here we have NASA's Image of the Day webpage. Let's make sure that we're not having an incident or an issue with the VTT track. Okay, so there's our VTT text. You can see the timestamps in the text. You can see here we have NASA's Image of the Day webpage and the timestamps. Alright, so here's that example video. So if I was not to use a VTT text track, I would see something like this. Here we have NASA's Image of the Day webpage. So the video would play and there'd be no caption option even available. So if you had any kind of problem with your hearing, if your computer's audio sound card wasn't working, it could be any number of reasons where captions could be really beneficial to you. You could be in a library and not be able to listen to it, have to run it on mute like this. The video can still run, but you have no concept of what's being said. So when you add the VTT track, here we have NASA's Image of the Day webpage. And you can see we have the closed captioned option down here. If we go full screen on the video, the text increases in size to scale with the video, which is nice, which also works on mobile devices very nicely. Let me minimize this. So you want to use a VTT text track with your video when you're playing it as HTML5, which displays natively in all browsers. So that's basically it. You want to have your video ready to go. You want to have your site working with all four of these links: the form, table, video and image, and then you are done. So the next step would be to follow the steps in lesson 10 involving installing FileZilla, which is a wonderful free file transfer protocol application. The login information for you to log into my hosting package to a folder I've set up for you, create your own named folder and upload your content, and then run a web accessibility scan and W3C validation on your code is all there. Please do that also, and send me screenshots of your web accessibility evaluation tool results so that I can record that for the remainder of this course. I appreciate your participation. If you have any questions for me, you can contact me at lightjump@gmail.com. Thanks a lot.